Okay, as I said, with the white pieces, for this series, we'll be going with c4. And we're not always going to get, you know, the perfect setup for the Taimanov. But even if black sets up like this, and, you know, they're welcome to do so, I'll probably still do some of the main moves of the opening, just to keep the structure and the ideas alive. Okay. Now, e4 is a move I think I'm going to take the time to prevent. We're going to castle. Remember, this bishop wants to end up on b2. Yeah, and this is more or less how we want to do it. Okay, c5. I still think we'll play b4. Happy to do this. Bishop b2. And I think, yeah, we're more or less in the exact type of structure that we would see from this opening. a5. Okay. All our pieces, by the way, are exactly where they would be if we played this opening from black's perspective. So I know we're obviously not playing an exact replica, because black's setup isn't exactly what you would choose, but I still think it's good practice to understand where the pieces go. Okay, rook to an open file. I'm doing that because obviously it's the only open file in the game. Normally I would put a rook on c1, but it's unusual for things to be completely closed here. Let's play h3. Very useful move. This rook wants to go to one of these two squares, and I'm thinking about knight d2 and bishop f3, and then maybe a bunch of trades. So bishop h6, who knows? Maybe the move g5 is the threat. I'm not actually sure. Okay, I was right. Honestly, scary looking move, I'm not gonna lie. I think he wants to play g4. Against g4, I'm assuming we would take. Now I'm thinking of knight e4 to trade more pieces. That seems like it should be good. Bishop f3, though, coming to mind here. What do we think of bishop to f3? Rook there. The reason bishop f3 I'm not psyched about is kind of because this pawn shows up here. So what I might actually get interested in is just knight e4. Go for some trades. Knight h7 is truly an impressive move. Like, just the I mean, it's impressive to reject a trade. I'll put it that way. I'll take this pawn because it is free, but to reject a trade and move the knight backwards is, whether or not it's good, it's kind of impressive that that it was even played. Okay, bishop here. I'm gonna start by playing bishop a1 just because why not make a threat? Ooh, well, I don't think he anticipated that one properly. Yes, there's knight c5, but I really want to get rid of that bishop. Okay, knight takes, and now that opens up this bishop. The rook is, you know, all my pieces from long range are going to start getting involved here with the position. I think bishop e5. f6, there's maybe even bishop g6. Kind of a nice move. Okay, rook here. Unfortunately, it's almost mate, by the way. Bishop takes f7. The only available move is the one that he just created. But the king will move, we'll take the rook, and then this knight will also be hanging on h7. And that should probably be the end, and it is. GG. Now, again, not too much to look at in this game, so we didn't really get, you know, our opponent didn't play e5. But at least the pieces kind of all went to the exact squares that we would put them on, h3. Simple stuff. So that's the setup. But it'll maybe make a little more sense when we play it from the black side. Okay. e4, so time for c5. Here we go. Sicilian, we're going to start with e6 all the time. We have a main line, at least so far. This is the Taimanov. Start with e6, always take on d4, always, always, always. And knight c6. So not a6, not any other move, knight first. And you never want to allow queen takes queen or something, so never take like that. Definitely B takes. And in these positions, I've been saying in this series, whenever you play B takes, your next move should absolutely be D5, just period. Go D5. It's supported by 2 pawns, and you always capture this way. Don't capture that way, capture this way all the time. Check, it's fine for us. Our bishop was not as good as white's, so we're happy to see moves like this, and you know that trade benefits us. How are we going to play the rest of this position? My next couple moves are going to be brain dead easy. Knight, bishop, castle. Just easy, easy, easy. Take back the queen, obviously not the king. What did I say? Knight out, bishop here, and castle. And I think black's position is just a little bit better. We have the 2 center pawns. Eventually, we might start pushing them. But for now, we'll leave it like that. Open lines to white's pawns that we can attack. Okay. Not phased by these moves. And this, I would say, is already a pretty effective opening. Queen D3. Not gonna get too complicated. Let's castle. There we go. Okay. Let's go probably knight h5 here. I know it looks like a little bit strange, but knight h5 forks the bishop and the queen, and it just means that I don't have to worry about bishop h6 stuff. So I like this one. Okay, let's take. And now I have 2 rooks that I would love to move to these wide open files. All right, and that move I've been waiting to see because of this nasty pin. Queen e3, d4 looks tempting, but surprisingly, after queen e3, d4 is actually a mistake. White could play queen d3 and pin my pawn. So what we're going to do is use our rooks, our queen to hit the knight and just be completely winning. So let's go queen c6. The knight is hit. It's pinned to the rook. You should still move the knight in a case like this. You'd never want to lose a knight versus losing a rook for a bishop. But it's amazing, and I state this all the time, but it's amazing how many people in this position right here, because they look at this position, they see the pin, and they're like, okay, if I move the knight, I will lose 5 points. That's what their brain is saying. This is worth 5, this is worth 3. I'd rather lose 3 than lose 5. But you're not doing the math. When you lose the 5, you get 3 points yourself. So it's much better to always move the knight. But it's just like the most common low elo blunder. Now, obviously, this is even worse because now you lose both. But let's say they played rook d1. Losing the knight is not better than losing the rook for the bishop. But it's just, people don't understand. It's not even like this should be a special reminder. It's just math. Just math, literally. 5 minus 3. People just don't get it. Okay, going for this pawn. I probably don't need to protect it. I'm gonna go and be a good boy and play habits and just go h6. We'll bring the rook over and take on a2. And yeah, let's continue here. Rook there. Actually, if the rook takes, we'll probably have a mate. So rook c8 is actually just very effective here. And this is the quickest way to win. GG. Surely that's a KO. A kick KO. Very nice, very nice. What happened in this one? This one really was a Taimanov. So I'm very happy that you guys got a chance to see this. This is the main line, knight c6, takes, just never take this way. My general rule, especially because if white made a regular move, our next move would be queen c7. My rule for the knight that I think we should follow is take with the pawn if you can, and I'm talking about the b pawn. So just don't take with the d pawn. Take with the b pawn if you can, and if you can't, take with the queen. So I'm talking about situations where our next idea would be a6, b5. And then if the knight captured, we would take with the queen. But if we played a6 and didn't play b5 yet, and the knight captured, we would take with the pawn because we can. So that's the most basic rule. Obviously, there's going to be exceptions, but I think that's a really good baseline rule to follow here. All right. But this would be how I would continue. Instead, our opponent took first, so we take with the b pawn, and next move d5. Nothing should stop you from playing d5. Again, there will be maybe one or two exceptions to this, but for the most part, chuck the pawn up to d5. Here we go, and always take with the c pawn. I don't want you taking like this. There's open lines. There's a weak. It's like not just that there's a weak pawn on a7, but you have like a weak pawn here, and then these two pawns. Whereas if the pawn's on e6, you just have one weakness, and this is all connected. So we have 3 pawn islands. Our opponent has 2. I would much prefer this, where we just have 2 as well, and it's probably even better than our opponents, because we can pressure these pawns on the open lines. So, and then yeah, knight, bishop, castle, very easy stuff. I would probably play rook c8 next, queen c6, maybe queen c4, maybe trade the bishop like this, h6. Like those are the types of moves I'd be playing next. But I love the idea of taking the bishop, and again, just pressure. More pressure, and rook c8 would be a great move. I decided to go queen c6, but it's all the same. Yeah, and at this point you're up a rook and the game is over. All right, e4, you guys know it. Here comes c5, d4, just like any other Sicilian. What have I said? Like, you always take. You always take. Queen takes d4. So what has our opening been? It's been e6, knight c6. In this case, just because the queen is there, I'm probably going to play the knight first, just to gain the tempo. But then let's play our exact same setup. We'll play e6. We'll play a6. Very important move. Okay, bishop to b5. Again, I'm not sure exactly what's going on here. I'll play a6. Important that I'm not actually threatening the bishop because of the rook, but I'll just try to do things more or less the same. I'll take with the c pawn, and I'll make sure to point out here, I guess, a slight difference, which is that if I play d5, because of my opponent's weird kind of opening shenanigans, if I play d5, pawn takes, I can't really take with the c pawn, and there might even be queen takes c6, although I actually don't think that's necessarily good. So d5 is not a move that I can rush here. So I would immediately be looking at this queen and saying, okay, I'm seeing issues with that. Rook b8, not only a place I'd want to put my rook in general, but rook b4 immediately looks like it's about to win material. And I believe it's done just that. Oh, my opponent typed to me. He said it's 3-minute game, bro. What are the plans for the light squared bishop? Later. Only things we need to do are knight f6, bishop e7, castle. And d5, which is why I invested the time to do this. Oh. Oh. Three-minute, bro. All right. Let's play knight f6 and castle. Wholesome interaction. Castling bishop c5 is actually like a really good way to play. I'm gonna do something which might not make a lot of sense, but for me, white's most dangerous piece on the board is the bishop. Get it the hell out of my face. I love my position way more without rook takes. Sorry, without the bishop on e3. So I'm much happier like this. Okay, d5. This game has been a little bit more of, you know, a win because of how bad the blunder was rather than anything else, but still. Okay, h3. I like your idea, buddy. I'm following you with h6. a5, bishop a6 looks like a nice way to activate the bishop. Takes, knight takes. Could be a bit better. Let's take this. Let's go queen b6. Kind of a double attack there. Let's get the bishop out where I wanted it. Now the rook is actually going to be trapped on the next turn. Well, I guess on the next turn, because we don't want to blunder that. But yeah, queen b4 actually traps the rook, which is kind of funny. He's not letting me go easily here. Let's play f6. And now do we finally do it? I think we finally trapped the... Yeah, we got your rook now, buddy. Oh, we got your knight now. Oh, no. Don't blunder the rook in one move. Don't do it. Yeah, we knew he was playing rook f1. We knew he was playing rook f1. Oof. That was a friendly interaction. I mean, fair play to him. I did take a minute on a move or something at the beginning. Honestly, I need this guy in my title Tuesday to remind me that it's a 3-minute game, bro. I should hire this guy every Tuesday. Just tell me it's a 3-minute game every 30 seconds. What happened here? Well, a little bit of an odd, like, you won't see this too much against your opening, but okay. Takes, a little bit awkward to play d5, so that's why I played rook b8. And white should really deal with the move rook b4, but I was kind of anticipating that he might find it a little cumbersome. So yeah, this is not one that I would say is super instructive because, you know, are you going to see queen d4, queen a4 too much? Not really, but for the most part, giving me the bishop pair, I'm happy with it. And rook b8, b4 was a strong reaction. All right, you guys know. We're going to go with c4. And look, we do see the reverse Sicilian. So we're going to go e3. There we go. And look at this. We might actually see the exact same game if queen a5. Not quite. All right, queen c2, a3, b4, bishop b2. Are you guys seeing that this is the same thing flipped? Because this is still very good practice. Knight h6. My god, is there like a council of 500s that meet every week and discuss what you guys are gonna play? Why does everyone play the same thing? People are so annoyed by my queen on c2. I have seen knight h6 to play bishop f5 more times than I can remember. Like, it's actually crazy. You guys meet up, group chat, and people are in love with this move. I don't get it. I've never seen it before. I don't know how the memo got out that that's how we play, but that's how we play. I guess. Queen g5 is also like just ridiculous type of move. What the heck's going on here? Queen G4. I mean, my goodness. Look at all. Remember how I said that I was going to play knight here, bishop here, pawn here? Well, I'm playing knight here with tempo. I'm playing pawn here with tempo. I'm getting all the moves that I want, but I'm doing them and gaining time. How have we handled these two pieces in the past? That's right. Knight H4. Get them the heck out of there. I want that bishop, and I want to just calmly play bishop E2, castle. No big deal. All right, queen here. Let's take that off the board. Get it out of here. All right. Now, knight E4. Fantastic square. Safe. Hits the queen. Rook C1 is a very nice move as well. Bishop E2, Rook C1. You'll notice how all my pieces have kind of found their squares. Castles. I think castling is probably the play here. We could also throw in Rook C1. This is kind of a nice Taimanov habit. Is that usually you want to get these queenside pieces developed. Knight E3. Well, this will be fun. I don't think it's good, but I respect and appreciate the energy, you know? Takes, queen takes. Now, if you're looking at our opponent's next move, it's probably F5. Probably. The annoying thing for black, in my opinion, is that after queen D2, there's no queen moves available. So you literally have to play queen B6 to keep the queens on, or you have to trade, and after sacking a piece, you do not want to trade. So it's a little unfortunate for black here. Maybe queen G3 and miss the backwards knight move, you know? Maybe we see that. All right, honestly, nice move. I respect the hell out of keeping the queens on the board. After you sack a piece, that is absolutely the way to play. Me, I'm gonna play knight C5 because I want to castle and you're blocking me. I'm gonna play knight C5 and I'm actually threatening knight D7, kind of a weird looking move, but it is a fork. Nice job. Covering, I mean, it's a great move. Really good move. I'm gonna castle. Now that I can, just barely. I should point out, like, knight E3 wasn't good by my opponent, but it wasn't like the worst type of sack. I see where his intuition is coming from. It's obviously misguided, but not completely. All right, here, because I'm up material, this is just a trade angle. Trade. Our knight's still pretty strong here as well. Let's get our bishop to a nice diagonal. C6. I mean, where's the credit for this? I mean, he's just playing a great game so far. He's down a piece, and I don't agree with that sack, but I can't hate on it. Queen C7, like, I'm chalking that up to another good move. I'm going G4 to cover that, but also stop F5. I do not like F5 hitting me in the face. Yeah, easy to miss that, and now the wheels come off. The wheels come off a little bit here. GG. I think he's a very strong player for his rating. That was a good game overall. Just imploded near the end. Yeah, it was like bishop h2, missed that it was covered, and then didn't see that long that it was just long range moves end up getting my opponent in this game. GG. All right, with the white pieces, c4. trying to learn a new opening together. And even though we might not see... Oh, we do. E5, nice. Even though we don't always get this as a perfect reversed Sicilian, it's great to practice the setup. So knight takes, queen c2. If knight b4, we always step back to that square. Although, for some reason, I haven't seen this move yet. I thought this would be most people's first instinct. But okay, knight there. Then we'll play a3. Take control of that. b4 and bishop to b2 are going to be our next moves. And man, I have never in my life seen this many people want to attack my queen. Like, it's actually bothering people. Let's go knight f3. This is so common. Bishop f5. And I mean, d3 is nice and solid here. I think I'll play e4 though, just because we can. I would say that playing a move like this, the only reason we would ever do it is because it's forcing. Meaning, he kind of has to take the knight now. And this is truthfully one of the only times where I would ever take with the d-pawn. And it's because it opens up my bishop. And my bishop would not normally be open here because my pawn would not normally be on e4. It would be back here, and then it wouldn't make as much sense. But because of the nature of the position, it opens up my bishop. There's no queen trade, so it kind of makes sense actually. Knight g5. We'd love to take that light squared bishop. They love attacking that queen straight away. They really do. And yeah, this is the dream right here. Take that bishop. The light squares are mine. So what that means is when you have two bishops against a bishop knight, look at what bishop you have that they don't have. Which one is it? That one. So generally, your pawns should be controlling the opposite color of that bishop. So the worst way for my pawns to be right now would be like this. You can see how bad that makes my position. I just like, there's holes everywhere. But if I play g3, h4, b4, notice how so many squares are covered that my opponent might want to use. So that's how you play when you have two bishops. Put your pawns covering the other squares and have your bishop that your opponent doesn't have take care of the light squares. Bishop c4. I mean, I'm just gaining time here, attacking e6. Let's just get developed. Bishop e3, rook d1, castle. So yeah, castle, g3, rook there, b4. Those are the types of moves I'm looking at. Although rook d1 is tempting now, I like castling first so that he can't take it. When my king was here, if he wanted to, he could have traded rook and queen on d1. So I'm going to do it where that's not available for him. Knight a5, a decent move to attack the bishop, absolutely. I can return to a2 and then just be threatening the e6 pawn. I can also return to e2. Trying to think about which one I actually prefer here. I'm gonna go this way. Queen here drops the pawn on e6. Queen c6, which is not a bad move. I might have to start playing some really accurate stuff against. Okay, let's bring the rook over. Queen c6. Maybe I'll go queen e2. g3 I also like as a move. Now obviously you don't have to like always put your pawns only on dark squares. Like you can play other moves, but okay, let's play b4, force the knight back. But hopefully you see how effective it is to do what I'm doing. Which is pawns on dark squares, and my bishop controls the light squares. Ooh. That's a long-range bishop. Tough to see, but it is a free rook right there. Free pawn, free rook. That diagonal was bad news for him. But yeah, honestly, his pieces just don't have squares to move to. So it's kind of tough for him. Take. Take. Not quite mate. Not quite mate. GG. This was a pretty well played game by my opponent. It wasn't until time trouble that he made any serious mistakes. But I liked it because we really got to see like a different looking setup. So e4 takes, d takes c3. Truly one of the main exceptions to our rule about capturing on c3 is right here. But really d takes c3 is only because the pawn's on e4. If the pawn was back there, then I wouldn't really consider it. It wouldn't be awful, but if you're playing dc3, even if your pawn's on e3, know that your next move should be to push it to e4. D takes c3 or d takes c6 is always coupled with e5 or e4. It's the only way to play that position. Otherwise, it's just not a very good idea to take that way. But here, you saw how it worked. Opened up both my bishops pretty nicely. Yeah. And this position was just very, very good right off the bat. All right. Here we go. Obviously, the Sicilian. And against f4, I'm still going to stick with e6. Go for our setup. a6. Anytime someone's delaying the move d4, I like to start with e6, a6, as opposed to starting with the knight. And it's not like the knight's a mistake, but I like to get these moves in. So if someone plays bishop c4, I would hit them with b5, and maybe c4 wins a piece already. So this move, do not like, looks really bad. g5, g4 are really bad squares normally for the queen. Number one, I mean, knight f6 already hits the queen. d5, takes. I mean, what's the percentage that my opponent loses the queen here? Very high, right? I'm gonna play d5. Takes is nice, but even if he doesn't, I'm okay. We're still gonna play this. We're still gonna play knight f6. Let's continue with these moves. I have this whenever I want. And the reason I say whenever I want is because of exactly what just happened. So now we'll actually play b4. You might be saying, what the hell is going on here? You're moving a lot of pawns. But I got this queen sitting right here. So I know for a fact that I'll be able to win this pawn in the center. And if he took me, I'd be happy to take back. Queen g5, I have a couple options I can take right now. I can throw in h6. All looks good. Queen e5, and knight there immediately traps the queen. You can't be playing around with your queen like that. There we go. Take, and obviously the queens can be exchanged here, but I won a pawn. And my bishop's going here, my knight's going out. You know, our king has to move, but hey, we did win a pawn. You can't take that away from me. b5, b4 puts a lot of pressure on our opponent's center pawn very early in the game. Now this is a great move, really good move. Knight e5, it threatens knight takes f7, so I'm gonna shuffle my king back. Bishop there actually is gonna get me interested in knight takes just because it ruins his castling, and I get the bishop pair. Let's bring that bishop to the best square. The normal square in the Taimanov. Probably knight here. Now, why would I not play knight c6? The only reason I'm thinking of knight d7 is because if the knight takes either of these, I prefer it taking here because I can't castle anyway. I've already moved my king. So I know that my king needs to start moving out of the way anyway. So I'd rather get a head start on that. Maybe g3. Get our king out of the way. We'll bring a rook to the open file. We got this long range bishop, so it's like as soon as he plays g3, we're ready to take on h1. How did we know that was going to happen? Let's bring this rook over. Too tempting to defend that f-pawn. Far too tempting. No, I didn't pay him. What are you guys talking about? What are you guys talking? Can't you just appreciate the prediction? Rook d8. Oh, okay, here it comes. Bishop f3. Pinning this. Remember, I'm up a rook here. Happy to trade. But, of course, we're looking to double and then maybe unleash a little baby tactic. Baby tactic. And I think we can unleash it right here. Rook d8. Oops. Blunder. Blundered our bishop. But bishop takes f4 and rook d1. I mean, there's no chance he's seeing that. No chance. Ouch. Yeah, it had to be a big start. Might be sitting there thinking, wow, you have no shame, Amon. KOing a game against the 600? Yeah, we KO those two. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That's probably my favorite part of making these speedruns. Obviously, the point is to show you guys the openings, teach you guys a thing or two about how they're played, and hopefully you can replicate the systems. But I'll always see a few comments, not a lot, but a few comments, and it'll be people being like, wow, so talented, dude. You have to get your, stroke your ego by crushing 600s. And it's like, yeah, I do. You're right. And I love it. Makes me feel alive. Fucking trash 600s. Of course I enjoy it. It's fucking beautiful. It's a little unfortunate we had this move because it kind of shaped the way I played the opening. Would have loved to have made a few more comments about the opening, but Queen G4 is just a really bad move, and hopefully you can appreciate, like, it just sets up knight f6. So instead of rushing to take my tempo, what I did was I went here because takes gives me the center, attacks that, and we just develop normally. He didn't. He played this. b5, a move totally part of the Taimanov. I know it's a lot of pawn moves, but it's kind of justified because of that. And then b4, immediately a threat. You lose control of the e-pawn, and then knight f6 comes. And same thing would happen if I went here, because it'd be threatening the move b4. And winning this pawn. So you got these two pawns up there, you get b4. It's a little uncharacteristic to get d5, but I knew my opponent was not playing an open Sicilian, no d4. So if people aren't playing d4, yes, you can play chill like this, but oftentimes you do get tempted into d5 because they're not playing d4, so you take the center instead. Speaking of, there's e4 and there's c5. And interesting. Okay, are we getting a Mora? No, we're just getting a queen takes. Well, this doesn't really slow down our play here. Kind of going to stick to the same ideas. Queen takes d4. I don't usually recommend these types of openings. You've probably heard me say this before. Where you bring the queen out like that, move it a bunch of times, it doesn't feel right. So as usual, b takes, and we play d5 immediately. We take with the b pawn always. My moves are going to be so simple, just trying to castle. That's it. I promise, no funny business. This bishop has a hard time developing, and I would love to play d4 here. And even though it looks like it wins a piece, there is queen f3. So queen f3 hits my rook. There's also knight c6 stuff. So let's play bishop b7. That's exactly where the bishop would go anyway, so it doesn't really stop anything. Interesting. So a lot of confidence there, noticing that pin against the pawn. Impressive, impressive. But know that as soon as my bishop's defended, I'm coming at you with d4, man. I'm just cautioning. Be careful. I'm gonna hit you with that when you least expect it. Alright, knight g4, good looking move. I do not want to give up my bishop here. Not interested. So let's keep it. Go back. Okay, now it's time for pressure on pawns. Let's start with this one. Okay, maybe we move on to this one. Okay. What did I say? Maybe when you least expect it, I might hit you with this. So d4, queen g3. It's not over yet. He's actually threatening knight h6 there. A little bit tricky. Now, I'm not actually sure that we can play the move d4 here. Unless we want to go like really wild. d4 takes knight h6, but that's silly. No sense in doing that. b4 itself is a mistake. No sense in getting complicated. I think I'm going to reroute this bishop so that it's not only covering queen g3, but also stopping knight e5, which looks like a solid move. d4 is kind of a threat now. Rook c4 and rook c8 I like. So a4. So now I'm definitely looking at this move. These knights look a little lackluster. So I think we will play this. Pawn takes here is the intention, with the b pawn hanging after that. And obviously we've uncovered an attack, but he's up to task here. So now after queen d3, although it looks like pawn takes is great, and it kind of is, another great move is f5. And it's really just which one do I want to do? Because to be honest with you, f5 is winning a knight. That knight does not have any squares. There's a5. We need to move this queen. Guess where the best square is? It's right here. Yeah, threatening checkmate here. Yeah, I had a feeling that might happen because knight d4 is so tempting. It solves the problem of the pawn, hits the queen, and solves the problem of the knight that was trapped. But it does not solve the checkmate problem. Oops. We didn't really get too much here out of the opening. Knight c6, we're going for the Taimanov stuff. All I can say is that this has been a tried and tested technique. When they take on c6, take back with the b pawn, not the d pawn, and play d5 as your next move. Always take with the c pawn, not the e pawn. Here it was pinned, so our decision was aided. But knight, bishop, and castle is like the next bunch of moves. Our bishop wants to go here, and then h6. Like, I think most people should be able to get to this point. From here, of course, it does matter. We want to keep our bishop. We want to bring our pieces to the open files, attack these pawns, and it does take some precision to play the game from this point. But getting to here should be kind of comfortable. All right, e4. We do get c5 here. And what do you know? It's the most popular move at this rating. So we start with e6. And the one thing I change when I see the bishop come out is, instead of bringing the knight out, let's start with the pawn. Because most people, look, I'm getting the move that I want to for bishop b7, right? That's perfect. But most people, when you're playing like this, they're not even realizing not only can their bishop get trapped, but you're just gaining time against the pieces. It's very comfortable. Knight here. Not quite. I'm gonna start with knight here, control some squares. Knight here, queen here, bishop e7, d6. This is our Taimanov setup. And there you go. We've already won a piece. And this is so common, honestly. When people play this bishop c4 line, the amount of times that they end up down a piece is, it's incredible. It really is. Okay, let's bring the rook. These are still all Taimanov moves. Queen c7 maybe. Knight f6. Hey, Brennan. Queen b3. Good move. Good move. I think I'll probably just move my bishop. But knight a5. Queen a4. Only move. I still think he's getting it done there. Knight a5. Queen a4. Rook c4. Is this queen getting trapped? There's no queen b6. No queen b7. No. None of these squares. That queen's getting trapped here. 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 Queen a3. Just barely surviving. This queen is trapped and it feels great. It feels great. b4. Rook takes. Queen a3. Knight c4 and the queen would be trapped. And look at the amount of material that we're up. What's it exactly? My opponent has a, well, now it's changed even more. But yeah, well, I can't even count the material because it keeps changing. It is a queen and a knight for nothing. Queen and a knight for nothing. Queen and a knight for a pawn, I guess. Apologies. We might need a recount. I think this is a let the clock run out situation. Rip. Poor guy. Wow, GG. That's 700. Massive KO. Get him out of here. We don't stop the KOs for nothing. We don't stop them for nothing. We see this move way too often. Whether it's knight f3 first or not, we see it so often. And I always tell you, get the pawns out first. Then b5 will so often win a piece. Here it was a little delayed because our opponent played that. We won the bishop, but man, it's so effective. Truly. This bishop c4 nonsense needs to stop. Needs to stop. It is the most played move, I want to say. Especially at this elo, not even close. But yeah, once we win the piece there, then it's just done. And here we also we just trap the queen. But yeah, can't be playing this bishop c4 stuff. This bishop c4 move is because most people against this play knight f3 and bishop c4. But when they're faced with Sicilian, because they haven't learned anything yet, they just like play it instinctively. They also do it because they're hooked, literally hooked like a drug addict on playing queen here and checkmate. And the way we play our Sicilian with e6 stops that entirely. You will never get checkmate on f7. Not in this opening, truly. So it is a very, very nice feeling that you don't have to worry about getting checkmated with this queen, early queen nonsense, because your opening is just so strong against it.